Hello, everyone. And we haven't spoken about this, but the president of South Africa made a speech the other day about the solution to end load shedding once and for all. And it appears that the solution is really to still rape the population of South Africa to fund Eskom. Because Eskom, in next year's NERSA application, so the energy regulator, they wanted a 33% tariff increase across the board. Now, 33% is extremely high. But now that Cyril Ramaphosa has said his speech and he said Eskom needs to do maintenance and bring back old workers and all the rest of it, Eskom may have to adjust its application because now they'll need much more money from taxpayers and users to fund the so-called plan to end load shedding. So the solution, according to Cyril Ramaphosa, to load shedding is to fund Eskom even more. Now, I'm sorry, Byron. This sounds like a bullshit plan because really now we're going to fund the very same institution that caused load shedding in the first place. We need to fund them more to end it, to end load shedding. I mean, come on. Come on. It's like putting a pedophile in a nursery school as a teacher. Like, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, so this is an article that came out of Biz News. Basically, it says Eskom may need more than 32.66% in HARC. And if you want to go read it, as per usual, links are always in the description below. But they basically says that this is all part of the government's plan to end load shedding. And part of that plan is obviously to rehire skilled engineers. So just as a shill, we did do a really good segment on this ourselves. Ramon, you might remember it, where we basically, the segment is the return of the whiteys, where we discussed Eskom trying to pull back all the old white skilled employees. We'll put it as the entail. And then obviously their other genius solution was Eskom 2.0. I'll put that in the entail as well. But we rubbished that idea, and that idea has now kind of been obliterated. But Eskom is obviously still harping on the idea of independent power producers, and then at the same time still continuing to run their diesel generators and their coal power fleets, so that they can, I don't know how they're going to do this, mate, but apparently they're going to compete against the private sector. So good luck to them.
Yeah.
In any case, the way to do this is apparently by raising the rate to 38.1%, because apparently in order to get their existing fleet up to scratch, as you can see in the article, they need an initial 20 billion for maintenance, and then thereafter
a year, by the way.
a year, and then thereafter they need 101 billion per year to continue running the freaking things, and that includes taking on the power producers. Like, these figures are staggering, mate. They are absolutely staggering. What's your view?
So it's almost like this whole plan to end load shedding, right? We know the plan is bullshit because the plan is only to end load shedding and to add a few thousand megawatts. We need to add 15,000. This plan adds like 3 or 4,000 megawatts. Independent power producers produce power. Eskom's going to buy it from them, but Eskom still needs to pay for it, and Eskom only gets its money from people like us, right? And the taxpayers and the other people who use Eskom services. So it appears that this plan is to end load shedding simply for the reason that Eskom exists in a material way, and that is to give Eskom a lot more money, i.e. you and I give Eskom a lot more money, despite the fact that you're off the grid, that everyone we know who can is off the grid. But I think the plan is not necessarily to solve the power crisis. The plan is to save Eskom so that the ANC can keep pillaging as much as it has.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, I mean, one of the problems that Eskom obviously has is that a lot of people, especially in the private sphere, like you and I, a lot of people are moving on to solar because they find, obviously, Eskom to be unpalatable. And so even at this rate, I think the fastest growing industry in terms of independent power is actually the solar sector. And we did a segment on this. Hate to do another shill. We did a section on the government wanting to obviously go out and tax people for the possibility of them going off grid and actually having their own independent solution to Eskom. But what's really interesting about their ideas is twofold. The first is they've obviously also pushed this idea of being able to sell that electricity back to Eskom. So whilst your house might be on the grid, you could effectively generate more electricity and give it back to Eskom as a credit You doubt they'll pay you because they've got no freaking money, but they might get a credit, in which case the money that they need to collect anyway is probably going to shrink, because I imagine a good few people are going to be running in the credits, and their revenue collection will be less than they think, which is now obviously why they're like, oh, well, we give you a credit, but don't worry, when you draw from it, we charge you triple. So it's never going to kind of like, might even out, I suppose. But I suppose the big thing here really is this, and that is, this has all been deemed to be a pragmatic solution to the ongoing problem. But this whole idea of independent power, the reason why it's going to cost Eskom so much is because a lot of the power that they saying needs to be generated has to come from renewables. And what we are seeing with renewables is that they're not that stable, mate. Like, they're not reliable. So
and they fuck off expensive. Sorry to interrupt. I'm currently in Portugal. 70% of electricity in Portugal is generated by renewable energy. Guess who happens to have one of the most expensive kilowatt hour rates in Europe? Is it Portugal? France? No. Oh, genius. I'm not sure how you came to that. But yes, they spend billions of euros on renewables, and now we have to pay it back. As well, not me, I don't live here, but Portuguese citizens who complain entirely about the energy bill crisis here. Instead of just having a fun, no, the city of Cape Town could just have one of those little mini reactors from Russia in Bantry Bay, like in the sea, that could power half the province by itself. It will cost you, 50 billion rand once off. It will last 1,000 years of energy. Like, that is a solution. Not putting windmills on every single road and on every single wheat field. But anyway, you're only allowed to do independent power through renewables in South Africa, which costs a lot, unreliable, and other countries have failed to do so, who are much more sophisticated than we are.
Yeah, so I mean, what comes to mind is obviously Texas. I mean, for those of you who recall, Texas last year had a massive big cold front, and the cold front froze some of their wind turbines. And in freezing some of their wind turbines, they were generating no wind electricity. And then it was a cold front, so there was no sun, so there was no solar. And whole parts of Texas went offline. Like, there was no electricity in Texas. So the government's got their solution to this, and that is to import electricity from neighboring countries. Because apparently, despite having record load shedding, even in our neighboring countries of Mozambique and Zimbabwe, apparently this is where we're actually going to get our backup electricity from. It's from them. So I'm glad to see the government has thought ahead.
We all know the solution to this. We made a video about this. Modular nuclear reactors, which are the size of an ordinary dinner table, and each one can power 200,000 homes. And they last for hundreds of years. It's very simple, very practical, very safe. No emissions, no pollution, no environmental damage. But somehow, nuclear power is just,
but it's
not even within the realm of possibility.
But despite it being deemed one of the cleanest form of electricities on the planet, no emissions, no nothing, it's still got a stigma to it, probably because it's Chernobyl. Thanks, Russians. Which is ironic, because it was the Russians that gave us the stigma to it, and the Russians that created the mini reactors. So
that's right.
Dumb ratio, I suppose. But anyway, the whole point of this is that nuclear is off the table for a lot of countries. They want clean electricity, but that electricity is usually through the lithium batteries. They have a 10-year shelf life. They through windmills. They have a 10-year shelf life. They through solar energy that has a 10-year shelf life. And as you very rightly said, these things have a shelf life of like 1,000 years. But there is a flaw in your plan, mate. And that is, this plan was proposed once before by a very popular person in the country. I believe his name was Jacob Zuma. And it was poo-pooed because it was Jacob Zuma. So...
yeah. Because it would be corrupt, Byron. Because it would be corrupt. I don't give a shit. The corruption is built into the equation whenever something in South Africa. If we had a nuclear plan and Russia gave us those reactors, even though if they would have, made exorbitant profit on it, we all know that South Africa would have had nuclear power in this country forever. We could grow the economy at 5-6% easily. Even with this energy plan from Cyril, the economy is still capped at 2%. This plan is only to end load shedding, not to have stable, rising electricity capabilities. And people need to understand that. And even as the plan to end load shedding, it's still a bullshit plan.
Now, I want to highlight something to this, actually, and I think it's something we haven't actually touched on before, but there is something you said there. We would have economic growth of between 5 and 6% if we actually had a stable electricity grid. That's with BEE, that's with all the bullshit that goes on in this country, strikes, all the usual crap. And this actually happened, by the way. This happened in 2001, at the start of 2001. We didn't actually have that much load shedding in the first quarter. And South Africa saw record growth rates in the start of 2001 before this year, which is the worst year ever for load shedding. And the chief reason for that growth was highlighted as just Eskom didn't go offline. That was it. So to get actual growth in this country, you just need more electricity. So who knew? Yeah. So it's amazing to actually see it, like how much of our own growth and where we can go as a country is just being hamstrung by the geniuses at the energy department and the government. Because this isn't even Eskom's plan. Like Eskom would like do everything we've just said if they actually had their way, but they're not the ones that make the decisions. So
no, they're not.
It's an interesting dilemma. Look, at the end of the day, I've got to play devil's advocate because I know people in the audience are going to do that. And that is, do you really want to give a corrupt ANC cadre access to basically a nuclear power station that could wipe out whole provinces of South Africa? And the answer is probably no. And we are seeing this obviously in Cape Town at the moment. That power plant there needs to be upgraded and is significantly behind on the upgrades and significantly over budget. And it's supposed to have been decommissioned by now, but we're still running it because no one's upgraded it. So do you really want to give nuclear capabilities to these guys? You tell me.
Yes, I do, because Chernobyl sunk the Soviet Union. Eskom is going to sink the ANC. So, I mean, it would have been better with a nuclear explosion than just a whimper. But most important, once you have nuclear, there is actual international nuclear regulations and authorities, and that happens. It doesn't happen for coal, doesn't happen for renewables, or any of that bullshit. That happens for nuclear, though. And these are the best of the best, and they would run to electrical grid, not the ANC. So, funny enough, we do. And on that bombshell, it's time to go.
Yeah, you broke up there a little bit, Ramon. I think you said that you think nuclear would be the best option for South Africa, and then time to go.
Oh, right, because no, because there's an international regulatory body that runs the nuclear reactors. And run locally within local, but there's a body that sends people to make sure it's working correctly. So you sign up to that, and they actually run it, not the other way around.
But we know that would directly go against the National Democratic Revolution and the idea that the state should control everything. So I can't see the ANC ever going for that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching.
Till next time, cheers.
You can see Ramon's being impacted by the WEF. They're like, we can't have Ramon talk on Russian reactors. So thanks, everyone. Bye.